Wind cut through the pines like a sermon on Judgment Day. Clara Thornwood rode the fence line, checking for breaks before the next storm rolled in. Cattle needed grazing room. Ice made them stupid. Then she heard it, a sound that didn't belong. Weak, high, almost swallowed by wind, crying. She spurred the roan toward the river crossing. 20 feet from the frozen bank, a small shape lay crumpled in the snow. Dark coat, pale hands, a child. He was off the horse before it stopped. Knelt, rolled him gently. 7, maybe 8 years old, lips blue, breath shallow, rattling, his eyes fluttered open, brown, glassy, terrified. He gripped her coat with fingers like ice and whispered 6 words that would break the next for months wide open. My chest hurts when I breathe. Something leather-bound lay beneath him, a journal. She reached for it, but hoofbeats echoed behind her. Clara wrapped the child in her coat and lifted him, light as kindling, his head lolled against her chest. The journal stayed in the snow. She'd come back for it. She mounted one-handed, settled him in front of her, and kicked the roan hard. 8 miles to town. 8 miles through cold that could stop a heart. The child's breathing hitched and stuttered. She held him tighter, angling her body to block the wind. His hair smelled like wood smoke and fever. Under that, something metallic. Wrong. Stay with me, she muttered. Stay, he didn't answer. Dr. Elias Whitmore's office sat above the dry goods store, lamplight already burning in the window. Clara took the stairs 2 at a time, shouldered through the door without knocking. Dr. Whitmore looked up from his table, needle halfway through a suture on a ranch hand's arm. He took one look at the child and pointed to the examination bed. Lay him down gently, Clara obeyed. The child's eyes were closed now. His chest rose and fell in shallow jerks. Dr. Whitmore pressed 2 fingers to the boy's neck, counting, his face tightened. How long was he out there? Don't know. Found him at the crossing. Alone. Alone. Dr. Whitmore cut away the boy's wet clothes with scissors, revealing skin too pale, ribs too prominent. Old bruises yellowed along his shoulder blades. Fresh ones darkened his forearms. Clara's jaw clenched. Dr. Whitmore noticed but said nothing. He placed a stethoscope to the child's chest, listened, moved it, listened again. Pneumonia advanced. Malnutrition. Dr. Whitmore straightened, reached for a vial of medicine. He should be dead already, but he's not. Not yet. Dr. Whitmore poured liquid into a spoon, coaxed it between the child's lips. We need to warm him slowly, too fast, and his heart will stop. Clara fed the stove while Dr. Whitmore worked. Blankets, hot water bottles, whiskey-soaked rags on the boy's feet. The room filled with the smell of camphor and coal smoke. Outside, boots hammered up the stairs, the door banged open. Silas Blackwood stood in the threshold, Sheriff Jack Harlan behind him. Blackwood wore a wool coat that cost more than most men earned in a year. His face was flushed, breathing hard like he'd run. Where is he? Dr. Whitmore stepped between Blackwood and the bed, examining a patient. That patient is my nephew. Blackwood pulled a folded document from his coat. Legal guardianship signed by Judge Knox and Eliza. He's mine. Clara's hand drifted toward her holster. Sheriff Harlan noticed, shook his head slightly. Dr. Whitmore took the paper, scanned it, his mouth thinned. Says here Miriam Kellerman abandoned her child 3 weeks ago. Whereabouts unknown. That's right. Convenient. Blackwood's eyes went cold. The law doesn't care about your opinions, Elias. Dr. Whitmore handed the paper back. The child is dying. He doesn't travel tonight. I'm not asking permission. Blackwood moved toward the bed. Clara stepped into his path. They were the same height, but Clara had 30 pounds of muscle and 3 years of silence to spend. He needs care. He'll get care at my house. Your house is where those bruises came from. The room went still. Sheriff Harlan's hand moved to his gun belt. Not drawing, just resting. Blackwood smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. That's a serious accusation, Thornwood. You got proof, witnesses, or just the word of a woman who hasn't spoken 10 sentences to another soul since her husband died? Clara said nothing. The truth was a blade that cut both ways. Blackwood turned to the sheriff. Jack, remove him. Harlan sighed, stepped forward. Clara, I got no choice here. Judge signed the paper. Guardianship's legal. He's not strong enough. That's for a doctor to say. Harlan looked at Dr. Whitmore. Dr. Whitmore's eyes burned, but his voice stayed level. Medically, he shouldn't be moved. Ethically, I can't stop you. Legally, he glanced at the paper in Blackwood's hand. The law is clear. Blackwood smiled again. Wrap him up. I'll carry him myself. Clara's fists clenched. Every instinct screamed to draw to end this. But Harlan's hand was still on his gun, and the law was a noose that tightened when you pulled. Dr. Whitmore wrapped the child in 2 blankets and lifted him with care that made Blackwood's impatience look like the cruelty it was. He handed the bundle to him. Jamal's eyes opened just a crack, focused on Clara. His hand reached out from the blanket, small and dark and shaking. Please, he whispered, so quiet she almost missed it. Please don't let him take me. Blackwood turned toward the door. The child's hand dropped. Sheriff Harlan touched Clara's shoulder. Let it go. Clara stood in the doorway and watched them load him into Blackwood's carriage, watched the door close, watched the wheels turn, watched the lamplight fade down the street. When the sound of hoofbeats died, she turned back to Dr. Whitmore. I'm going back for the journal. Dr. Whitmore nodded, handed her a lantern. Whatever you find in it, Clara, don't do anything stupid. She took the lantern, said nothing, rode back into the cold. The journal lay half buried in snow where the child had dropped it. Clara brushed ice from the cover. Leather worn. Initials stamped in the corner. Kate, she opened it by lantern light. Snow falling around her. First page. Neat handwriting. If you're reading this, I'm dead. My name is Miriam Kellerman. My brother is Silas Blackwood and has been poisoning people for their land. Clara read by lamplight at her kitchen table. The journal opened before her. Coffee gone cold in her cup. Outside, wind rattled the shutters. Inside, the fire burned low. She didn't notice either. Miriam Kellerman had neat handwriting, the kind taught in Eastern schools. Each entry dated, each fact recorded like she knew someone would need proof. October 3, 1883. Elias Brennan died today. Fever, Doc said. But Elias was healthy as an ox last month. His widow sold the property to Silas for $60. It's worth $600. October 19, Lena Chen's husband passed. Same fever, same buyer. $40 for land near the creek. November 2, the Novak family, all 3 children, father dead by November 10, land sold November 15, Clara turned pages. 15 entries, 15 deaths, 15 properties now owned by Silas Blackwood. The entries grew more frantic toward the end. December 8, I tested our well water. Tastes metallic. Jamal's been sick for 2 weeks, coughing, weak. I bought bottled water from the store. He's improving, but Silas noticed. He asked why I wasn't using the pump anymore. December 14, found powder in the rain barrel. White crystalline. I think it's arsenic. God help me. I think my brother is poisoning us. December 22, confronted Silas. He said I was hysterical. Said, grief over my husband's death has made me paranoid, but his eyes, I know what I saw. He knows I know. The journal ended there. Dated 3 weeks ago. Clara closed it, stared at the cover, thought about a 7-year-old boy with bruises and a rattling cough and eyes that begged her not to let him go. She thought about the law, about papers signed by judges, about how justice was supposed to work. Then she thought about Miriam Kellerman's last words written in careful script at the bottom of the final page. If I disappear, don't let Jamal drink the water. The powder is in the rain barrel. Please, someone don't let him take him. Clara stood, strapped on her gun belt, reached for her coat. The door burst open. Sheriff Harlan stood on the threshold, hand on his weapon. Behind him, two deputies behind them, torchlight and voices. Clara Thornwood, step outside. Clara's hand stopped halfway to her holster. What's this about, Jack? Silas Blackwood filed a complaint. Says you tried to abduct his nephew. Says you threatened him at Dr. Whitmore's office. Says you've been acting erratic since your husband passed. Harlan's voice was tired, apologetic. Says he's worried you might try something tonight. That man is murdering people. You got proof of that? Clara gestured to the journal on the table. Harlan walked over, glanced at the open page. This belong to you? Belongs to Miriam Kellerman. Where'd you get it? Her son was carrying it when I found him. Harlan flipped through pages. His face showed nothing. Finally, he closed it. This is a woman's diary, not evidence, just thoughts, suspicions. It's a record of what? Fever deaths. People die of fever every winter out here. Land gets sold cheap when families are desperate. That's tragedy, Clara, not crime. Read the last entry. Harlan did, his jaw tightened. But when he looked up, his eyes held something worse than anger. Pity. Says she confronted him. Says she thought he was poisoning her. Doesn't say he admitted anything. Doesn't say she found proof. He set the journal down. And now she's gone. Convenient witness, isn't she? Dead women tell good stories. She's not dead. You know where she is. Clara said nothing. Thought so. Harlan moved toward the door. Here's how this goes. You stay away from Blackwood's house. You stay away from that boy. You keep your theories to yourself, because if I hear you've been spreading this around town, making accusations you can't prove, I'll have to lock you up for your own good. My own good? You're not thinking straight, Clara. Haven't been since Marcus died. I get it. I do. But this, he tapped the journal. This is grief talking. And grief makes women see things that aren't there. The deputies shifted behind him. One held a pair of iron cuffs. Clara looked at them. At Harlan, at the journal on her table. I'm not going anywhere tonight, she said quietly. Harlan nodded. Smart woman. He gestured to the deputies. They backed out slowly, hands still near their weapons. At the door, Harlan paused. One more thing. Blackwood accelerated the note on your ranch. Clara's blood went cold. What? Bank called in your loan. Says, you got 90 days to pay $800 or the property goes to auction. Harlan's face showed real regret now. I'm sorry, Clara, but that's legal, too. Bank's right to call a note early if they see fit. This is retaliation. This is business, and you can't prove otherwise. Harlan tipped his hat. 90 days starting today. The door closed. Hoofbeats faded. Clara stood alone in her cabin, the journal on the table, the fire dying in the hearth. She walked to the window, looked toward town, toward the big house on the hill, where lamplight burned in every window, where a 7-year-old boy lay dying, and the man killing him held every legal card. $800, 90 days. An entire ranch built by her grandfather, maintained by her father, nearly lost when Marcus died, and now slipping through her fingers like smoke. She could sell the cattle, maybe get $400, not enough, could borrow. But Blackwood owned the only bank within 200 miles. The trap was perfect, legal, airtight. Clara sat back down, opened the journal again, read Miriam's last entry one more time. Then she turned to a blank page in the back, found a pencil, started making a list of every name she'd written, every death, every property, every date. If the law wouldn't listen, maybe someone else would. She just had to figure out who. Outside, snow began to fall again. Inside, the fire burned down to embers. And somewhere in the dark, a little boy with a rattling cough lay in a bed that smelled like medicine and fear. Morning came grey and cold. Clara fed the cattle, mended a fence post, split wood until her shoulders ached. Work kept her hands busy, didn't help her mind. She was measuring oats when Hoofbits approached. Dr. Whitmore's mare. He dismounted before the horse stopped. Medical bag in hand. Need to talk. Clara set down the scoop. Coffee's hot. They sat at the kitchen table. Dr. Whitmore's hands wrapped around the cup like he was trying to steal its warmth. Her eyes looked older than they had yesterday. My wife died 5 years ago, he said. November fever, she said. Quick and brutal. She was 43, strong, never sick a day in her life. Clara waited. We had a homestead, 20 acres near Blackwood's land, good water. She'd been talking about buying more cattle. Then she got sick. He stared into the coffee. 3 days later, she was dead. Week after that, I got an offer. Silas Blackwood. $50 for the whole property. You sell? I did. I couldn't think. Couldn't farm alone. Needed money for medical school debts. His voice dropped. It's worth $300 now. Maybe more. Clara pulled the journal from her coat pocket, slid it across the table. Dr. Whitmore opened it. Read. His face went pale, then red, then pale again. He killed them, he whispered. All of them, including his voice broke. Including your wife. He closed the journal carefully, set it down like it might shatter. When he looked up, his eyes were wet, but his voice was steel. What do you need? Evidence. Real evidence, not just a dead woman's diary. Dr. Whitmore reached into his medical bag, pulled out a small glass vial in a leather case. Arsenic test kit takes 30 minutes. If there's poison in water, this solution turns yellow. You test it, Blackwood will know. He already knows. Dr. Whitmore's smile was bitter. Difference is now I know, too. And I'm not a grieving widower anymore. I'm a physician with access to every property he sold. Clara studied him. This won't bring your wife back. No, but it might save that little boy. They sat in silence. Wind rattled the windows. Cattle lowed in the distance. Finally, Dr. Whitmore stood. I'll test the wells quietly. You figure out how to get to Jamal. Harlan said Harlan's a good man in a bad position. Blackwood holds half the town's loans. Sheriff included. He paused at the door. But laws can't stop you from riding past a house. Can't stop you from noticing things. Can't stop a child from looking out a window. He left before Clara could answer. 2 nights later, Clara rode past Blackwood's house. 3 stories, white paint, iron fence, lamplight in every window except one. 2nd floor, corner room, dark. She circled back an hour later, still dark. 3rd time, past midnight, she saw movement. Small shadow against the glass, then gone. 4th night, she brought her horse to a walk directly across from that window. Counted to 30, turned to leave. A flash of white paper pressed against the glass. She reined in, squinted. Drawing child's hand. 3 stick figures, 2 tall, 1 small. Location unclear, but one figure had long hair. Woman. The paper disappeared. Reappeared. This time with words, shaky letters, rain barrel. Clara's breath caught. The paper vanished. Curtain fell. Window went dark. She rode away slowly. Didn't look back, but she felt the weight of that message like a brand. Telegraph office was above Ruby Lang's saloon. Clara climbed the back stairs just before dawn, knocked twice. Ruby answered in a silk robe, hair down, cigarette between her fingers. She was 50-some, sharp-eyed Chinese mother and Irish father, and ran half the information in 3 counties. Clara Thornwood didn't know you remembered where I lived. Need a favor? Everyone does. She stepped aside. Let her in. The room smelled like tobacco and ink. Telegraph machine sat silent in the corner. Maps covered one wall. Notes pinned everywhere. Ruby poured 2 whiskies. Handed her one. Miriam Kellerman was my friend. Clara's hand stopped halfway to her mouth. Taught her Morse code. Just basics enough to send messages nobody else could read. Ruby walked to a drawer, pulled out a stack of telegraph slips. She sent these over 6 weeks. Coded about Silas. She spread them on the table. Clara read brother buying land, fever deaths, pattern tested water, arsenic, need proof he knows, scared Jamal, not safe if something happens. The last message was incomplete, date 3 weeks ago, same day Miriam's journal ended. Where is she? Clara asked. Don't know, but I know she didn't run. Tapped ash from her cigarette. Miriam loved that boy more than breath. She wouldn't leave, not willingly. Then she's dead probably. Ruby's voice was flat. Matter of fact. Question is, can we prove it before he kills Jamal, too? Clara told her about the journal, the wells, Dr. Whitmore's test, the window message. Ruby listened, smoked, thought. You need more than water tests in a dead woman's diary. You need witnesses. You need the town to care. She stubbed out the cigarette. And right now, the town's scared. Blackwood holds their leashes. So, what do I do? Ruby smiled. It wasn't kind. You make him arrogant. You make him think he's won. And you wait for him to slip. I've got 90 days before I lose the ranch. Then we'd better work fast. She walked to the telegraph machine, started typing. Clara watched the keys click. Who are you messaging? County Records Office. Land surveys, death certificates. I want dates, names, every transaction Blackwood's made in 3 years. She looked up. If there's a pattern, paper trails don't lie. And if there's not, then we find another way. Ruby's fingers flew over the keys because I made Miriam a promise. And I don't break promises. Not to friends, not to the dead. The machine clattered, clicked, went silent. Ruby pulled the confirmation slip, folded it, handed it to Clara. Go home. Feed your cattle. Act normal. In 3 days, I'll have answers. Clara stood, hesitated. Why are you helping? Ruby lit another cigarette, stared at the maps on her wall. Because I'm tired of burying friends. 3 days later. Dr. Whitmore arrived at dawn with a leather satchel and a face like thunder. Found it, he said. No greeting, no preamble. Clara set down the bucket of milk. Found what? Arsenic in the well water. Every property Blackwood bought in the last 3 years. He pulled out a notebook, flipped it open. Tested 12 sites, 12 positive results, levels high enough to cause chronic illness, death within months. Clara's chest tightened. You got samples? Bottled and labeled, locked in my office. He met her eyes. This is murder, Clara. Mass murder. And we can prove it. We need to tell Harlan. Already did. The words hit like cold water. What? Went to him this morning. Showed him everything. The test results, the journal, Ruby's telegraph records. Dr. Whitmore's voice went flat. He thanked me for my diligence. Said he'd look into it. Then he told me to keep it quiet until he could verify the findings. Verify how? He didn't say, but Blackwood was in his office when I left. Silence. The kind that presses on your ears. Clara grabbed her coat. I'm going to town. Wait. Dr. Whitmore caught her arm. There's more. Blackwood's hosting a church dinner tonight. Charity event. He's donating $200 to the mission fund. So he's bringing Jamal, showing him off. New clothes, clean hair. The whole town will be there. Dr. Whitmore's grip tightened. He's making a play, Clara. Showing everyone what a good guardian he is. Making you look like the dangerous one. Clara pulled free, didn't answer, mounted her horse, and rode. Town square was busy. Saturday, market day. Clara hitched her horse outside the sheriff's office and went in. Harlan sat at his desk, papers spread before him. He looked up, sighed. Clara, Dr. Whitmore showed you proof. He showed me test results in a diary. That's evidence of contaminated wells, not of murder. Harlan stood, walked to the window. You know how many wells get fouled out here? Mining runoff, natural deposits. Hell, half the creek water in this territory has trace metals. Not at these levels. Maybe, maybe not. I'm no chemist. Harlan turned. His face showed strain. Look, I sent a telegram to the territorial marshal. Asked for an investigator. That's procedure. Until then, my hands are tied. How long? 2 weeks? Maybe 3. That boy doesn't have 3 weeks. You a doctor now? Clara stepped closer. You know what's happening. You know Blackwood is dirty. I know a lot of things. Knowing isn't proof. Harlan's voice dropped. And even if it was, you think a judge will side with us over him? Blackwood built half this town. He employs 1/3 of the people here. He's got lawyers in Helena and friends in Washington. And you've got a badge. A tin star and a salary he could cancel tomorrow. Harlan's jaw worked. I've got a wife, 3 kids. If I move wrong on this, we're done. Finished. So, yeah, I'm being careful. Sue me for wanting to feed my family. Clara stared at him, saw the fear, the calculation, the cowardice dressed up as prudence. Miriam Kellerman had a family, too. She walked out before Harlan could answer. The church dinner started at 6. Clara stood across the street in the shadows, watching people arrive. Families, merchants, ranch hands, and clean shirts, everyone smiling, everyone pretending. Blackwood arrived last. Carriage, driver, and Jamal. He wore a blue shirt, too big, hair brushed and combed, face pale but clean. He walked beside Blackwood with his hand in his, small and fragile and utterly trapped. Clara's hand went to her gun, stayed there. The crowd parted for Blackwood. Men tipped hats, women smiled. Father Mateo stood on the church steps, welcoming them in. His face was tight, but his voice was warm. Blackwood paused at the top step, turned to the crowd, raised his glass, raised his voice. Friends, neighbors, tonight we gather in gratitude and fellowship. I'm honored to contribute to the mission fund. $200 to help those less fortunate. Applause. Scattered. Polite. And I'm blessed to have my nephew Jamal home with me, safe and healthy, after his mother's tragic abandonment. He squeezed his hand. He flinched. He smiled. We must pray for Miriam wherever she is. Whatever darkness led her to leave this innocent child alone in the cold. More applause, louder now. Clara watched Jamal's face. Saw his eyes scan the crowd searching. They found her. For 1 second, their gazes locked. His lips moved. No sound, but she read the words rain barrel. Then Blackwood pulled him inside. The door closed. Clara turned to leave. Wait. She spun. Dr. Whitmore. Elias stepped from the alley beside her. Ruby Lang with her. We heard. Ruby said her voice was ice. Harlan told you to wait for the marshal. He told me the truth. He's bought. No. Dr. Whitmore shook his head. He's scared. There's a difference. Fear we can work with corruption. We can't. Then what do you want me to do? Stand here while Blackwood parades that boy around like a trophy? Ruby pulled a folded paper from her coat, handed it to her. County records came through. Look at the dates. Clara unfolded it. List of names, properties, death dates, sale dates, and at the bottom in Ruby's handwriting. 3 death certificates signed by Blackwood before the person died. Her blood stopped. He forged them, Ruby said. Signed as a witness to deaths that hadn't happened yet. Probably planned to backdate. Got sloppy. Where did you? Father Matteo has access to the church registry. Births, deaths, marriages, all recorded. Ruby's smile was sharp. Turns out he's been uncomfortable with Blackwood's donations for months. When I showed him what we found, he opened the books. Clara looked at Dr. Whitmore. You said Harlan won't move without the marshal. He won't, but the town might. If they see proof, if they understand what's at stake, Dr. Whitmore gestured toward the church. That dinner goes for 3 hours. Every rancher, every merchant, every family with land will be in that room. Captive audience. You want me to storm a church dinner and accuse Blackwood? No, Ruby said, I want you to stay quiet. Let Blackwood talk. Let him play the benevolent uncle. And then when he's feeling safe, when he thinks he's won. The church door opened. Blackwood stepped out alone, lit a cigar, stretched. His eyes found Clara across the street. For a moment, neither moved. Then Blackwood smiled, took a long pull on the cigar, blew smoke toward the sky. He called out, voice loud enough to carry. Thornwood, good of you to come, though you weren't invited. Pause. I heard about your loan. 90 days. That's hard. If you need advice on selling cattle, I'd be happy to help. Professional courtesy. Clara said nothing. Or maybe you're here about the boy. Still worried, are you? Blackwood's smile widened. Don't be. He's thriving. He's eating well, sleeping through the night. Doesn't ask about his mother anymore. Children adapt. It's remarkable. Dr. Whitmore's hand touched Clara's arm. Warning. She shook it off. Stepped into the street. Boot heels on frozen dirt. You killed them, she said. Quiet, steady. Blackwood laughed. Killed who? 15 families poisoned their wells, bought their land cheap after they died. The laughter stopped. Blackwood's eyes went cold. That's slander, Thornwood. Dangerous slander. I'd be careful. Got proof. Do you? Blackwood flicked ash from his cigar. Because Sheriff Harlan seems to think you've got a grieving woman's paranoia and a lot of baseless accusations. The whole town thinks that. And after tonight, after they see how well Jamal's doing under my care, they'll think you're not just paranoid, they'll think you're dangerous. He took another pull, exhaled slow. You should go home, Clara. Feed your cattle. Enjoy your ranch while you still have it. Because in 90 days, it'll be mine, too. And there's not a damn thing you can do about it. He turned, walked back inside, door closed, the street went quiet. Ruby stepped beside Clara. He just made a mistake. What mistake? He threatened you publicly in front of witnesses. She looked at Dr. Whitmore at the church at the windows where faces pressed against glass watching. And now we know he's worried. Worried men get sloppy. Dr. Whitmore nodded. The dinner ends at 9 o'clock. Father Matteo speaks at 8:30. He's going to mention the church records. Not directly, but enough. Enough to plant seeds. And then we wait for Blackwood to panic. And when he does, Ruby's smile returned. We'll be ready. Clara looked at the church, at the light, at the shadow of a small boy, visible through one window, sitting alone at a table, while adults laughed around him. 87 days left, 1 child dying, 1 man untouchable. And somewhere in the dark, Miriam Kellerman's body lay undiscovered, her final warning unheeded. She turned away, mounted her horse, rode home through cold that bit deeper than wind. Behind her, inside the church, Blackwood raised his glass in a toast. The town drank with him, and a 7-year-old boy stared at his plate and wondered if anyone was coming. Clara visited Marcus's grave at dawn. Snow had drifted against the wooden marker. She cleared it with her bare hands, ice burning her fingers. Failed again, she said to the frozen ground. Got evidence, got witnesses, don't matter. Law's his, town's his. Everything's his. Wind answered. Nothing else. She sat on the cold earth, thought about the ranch. About $800 she didn't have, about a little boy in a blue shirt mouthing words through glass hoofbits approached. She didn't turn. Old Amos climbed down from his wagon, joints creaking, 70-something, back bent from decades at the forge, hand scarred from hot metal he'd shod. Clara's first horse had taught her to shoe her own. Amos sat beside her without asking, pulled a flask, took a drink, offered it. Clara shook her head. Heard about the dinner? Amos said. Everyone. Heard what you said to Blackwood. About the poisoning, that too. Amos took another drink, screwed the cap back on. My son lost his farm 2 years ago. Fever took his wife, then him. Left 3 kids orphaned. Blackwood bought the property for $90. Sold it 6 months later for $400. Clara looked at him. Didn't think much of it then. Tragedy happens. Land changes hands. Amos's voice was rough. But now I'm thinking, wondering about that fever, about the water. You're not the only one. No, I'm not. Amos stood, brushed snow from his pants. Spring brandings in 6 weeks. You still planning to do it? If I still have a ranch, you will. Bank can't take it before 90 days. Law's clear on that much. Amos paused. Branding's a public thing. Whole territory comes. Neighbors help. It's tradition. Even a banker can't stop tradition. Clara stood. What are you saying? I'm saying a woman's got a right to work her own cattle. And if folks happen to gather, if conversations happen while irons heat and calves get marked. Amos shrugged. Well, that's just community. Can't legislate against community. He climbed back into his wagon, paused. Your daddy built that ranch with his hands. Your granddaddy before him. Don't let some paper-pushing bastard take it without a fight. He snapped the reins. 6 weeks. I'll bring my sons. We'll help with the branding. The wagon rolled away. Clara stood alone among the graves, looked at Marcus's marker, then at the small stone beside it. Lily. 3 days old when winter took her. 6 weeks, she said as she said to them, if I last that long. That night, Dr. Whitmore, Ruby, and Father Mateo gathered at Clara's table. Lamplight threw shadows on the walls. Outside, February wind howled. Father Mateo spread the church registry open. Pages yellowed with age. Ink faded, but readable. 3 certificates, he said. His voice carried the weight of confession. Elias Brennan certificate dated October 2nd. Signed by Silas Blackwood as witness, but according to my records, Elias didn't die until October 3rd. Ruby leaned in. 1 day off, could be a mistake. Could be. Except Father Mateo turned pages. Lena Chen's husband's certificate dated October 18th, death recorded October 19th. And the third Dr. Whitmore asked Joseph Novak. Certificate dated November 1st, death November 2nd. Father Mateo closed the book. His hands trembled. 3 certificates, 3 dates wrong, all signed by the same man. Silence filled the room like smoke. He knew they were going to die, Clara said. Signed the papers in advance. Probably meant to backdate them. Got sloppy. Or arrogant, Ruby said. Thought no one would check. Thought no one would care. Dr. Whitmore pulled out his notebook. I've got the arsenic results. You've got the certificates. Ruby's got Miriam's telegrams. That's 3 independent sources all pointing to the same man. It's enough for an arrest, Father Matteo said. Is it? Clara looked at him. You willing to testify in court against Blackwood? The priest's face paled. The church, my position. If I'm wrong, you're not wrong. But if the judge thinks I am, if Blackwood's lawyers twist it, if the town turns, he swallowed. I could lose everything. The mission, the trust, my calling. Miriam lost more, Ruby said quietly. Father Matteo flinched, looked down at the registry, at the names written there. Births, deaths, marriages, the sacred record of lives lived and ended. I need time, he whispered, to pray, to be certain. Time's what we don't have, Dr. Whitmore said. Then give me until the branding. Father Matteo met Clara's eyes. 6 weeks. If we're going to move, we need the town behind us. And the town won't move unless they see, unless they understand. The branding brings everyone together. Neutral ground. If we present the evidence there, it's not a courtroom, Clara said. No, it's better. It's community, and community can do what courts can't. Father Matteo closed the registry. I'll testify. I'll show them the certificates, but not before, not until the moment is right. Dr. Whitmore nodded slowly. The branding gives us time to prepare, to gather more evidence, to make sure we don't miss anything. Ruby lit a cigarette. And it gives Blackwood time to make another mistake. He's scared now. I can feel it. Scared men do stupid things. Clara looked at each of them. At the priest who risked his calling, at the doctor who risked his practice. At the telegraph operator who risked Blackwood's wrath. Why? She asked. Why are you all doing this? Dr. Whitmore spoke first. Because I want to know. My wife's death meant something. Ruby exhaled smoke. Because I made a promise to a friend. Father Matteo touched the registry. Because these names deserve justice. And because a child deserves to live, they sat in silence. The lamp flickered. Outside, wind rattled the shutters. But inside, something small and fragile began to grow. Hope. Not the wild kind. Not the reckless kind. The quiet kind. The kind built on shared risk and common purpose in the belief that maybe, just maybe, right could still win. Clara stood, pulled 4 cups from the shelf, poured coffee. 6 weeks. She said. We make it count. They drank, made plans, and when they left near midnight, Clara stood on her porch and watched them ride away. 6 weeks to save a ranch. 6 weeks to expose a killer. 6 weeks to prove that law and justice weren't always the same thing. She looked toward town, toward the big house on the hill where lights still burned. Somewhere in that house, a little boy slept, or didn't. And somewhere in the dark, his mother's body waited to be found. For weeks passed. March came cold and wet, snow turning to slush, mud sucking at wagon wheels. Clara worked the ranch, prepared for branding, and watched Blackwood's house whenever she rode to town. The windows stayed dark. No sign of Jamal. Then on a grey Thursday, Ruby arrived at the ranch with news. Blackwood's hosting another event, Sunday, church charity luncheon. She dismounted, boots sinking into mud. He's bringing Jamal again, showing him off. Clara's jaw tightened. Why? Because it works. Town sees him in nice clothes, clean and fed, sitting quietly beside him. They think, look how well he's doing. Look what a good man he is. Ruby's voice dripped acid. Meanwhile, they are calling you obsessed, dangerous. Some are saying you should be locked up for your own good. Let them talk. Talk becomes action. Clara Blackwood is not just defending himself anymore. He's attacking, making you the villain so no one questions him. Dr. Whitmore rode up behind Ruby. Medical bag strapped to his saddle. There's more. I ran tests on 3 more wells, all positive for arsenic, but when I tried to report it to Harlan, he told me to stop. Stop testing? Stop investigating. Said I was overstepping. Said if I continued without official authorization, he'd have to cite me for interfering with a pending inquiry. Dr. Whitmore's face was stone. There is no pending inquiry. The marshal never responded. Blackwood got to him first. Clara turned away, stared at her fence line. Cattle grazed beyond it, oblivious. So, we're alone? Not entirely. Ruby pulled a telegram from her coat. I've been sending inquiries to every newspaper within 200 miles. Most ignored me, but one editor is interested. Wants to send a reporter. If we can give him a story, proof, witnesses, evidence, he'll print it. When? 2 weeks. Right before your branding. Ruby's smile was thin. Blackwood can control this town. Can't control the whole territory. Once the story breaks, the marshal will have to move. Public pressure. Dr. Whitmore nodded. It's our best shot. Maybe our only shot. And if the reporter doesn't come, if the marshal still does nothing, no one answered. Sunday arrived. Clara watched from across the street as carriages pulled up to the church, families in their best clothes, children scrubbed clean, men in pressed shirts, women in good dresses. In Blackwood, arriving last as always, carriage polished, driver uniformed, and beside him, Jamal. He wore yellow this time, bright against the grey day, hair in curls, face pale but composed. He walked with his hand in Blackwood, small and proper and utterly still. The crowd parted, smiled, nodded approval. Blackwood paused on the church steps, raised his voice. Friends, before we go in, I wanted to share wonderful news. My nephew Jamal has been making remarkable progress. Dr. Whitmore examined him last week. Completely healthy now. The pneumonia is gone. He's gaining weight, sleeping well. He squeezed his hand. He didn't react. I know there have been concerns, rumors, unfounded accusations from troubled individuals. His eye swept the crowd, landed briefly on Clara. But as you can see, Jamal is thriving. He's happy. He's home. And I'm grateful to all of you for your support during this difficult time. Applause, warm, genuine. Clara's hands clenched. Then Jamal moved just slightly. His free hand rose, pressed against the window of the church door behind him. 5 fingers spread wide and his lips moved, silent but clear. Rain barrel. Clara took a step forward. Dr. Whitmore's hand caught her arm. Wait, he's telling us, I know, but not here. Not now. Dr. Whitmore's grip tightened. Look. Blackwood had noticed. His smile never wavered, but his hand on Jamal's wrist shifted. Tightened. He flinched. He pulled him inside. Door closed. The crowd followed. Within minutes, the street was empty. Clara stood alone. Rain began to fall. Cold, thin, smelling of mud and rotting snow. Rain barrel, she said to no one. He keeps saying it. Dr. Whitmore stepped beside her. Miriam's journal mentioned it. The powder is in the rain barrel, but Blackwood's had weeks to get rid of evidence. It's probably gone. Or it's still there, hidden in plain sight. Clara looked at the big house on the hill. He's arrogant. Thinks he's untouchable. Maybe he didn't bother. You can't break into his house. I'm not breaking in. I'm checking a rain barrel on public property. Anyone can walk past a house. Ruby appeared from the alley. Actually, no. Blackwood filed a restraining petition yesterday. Sheriff served it this morning. You're not allowed within 50 yards of his property. Clara turned. What? Says you've been harassing him, stalking his residence, making threats. Judge granted a temporary order. Violation means jail. Ruby's face was grim. He's boxing you in legally. Can't touch him. Can't get near the boy. Can't investigate. He's got every angle covered. Then how? I can, Dr. Whitmore said quietly. They both looked at him. The order's against Clara, not me. I'm Jamal's physician. I have medical authority to check on his welfare. Dr. Whitmore's voice was calm. Clinical. If I happen to notice a rain barrel during a house call, if I happen to take a sample for public health reasons, that's not breaking any laws. That's due diligence. Ruby grinned. You devious man. I prefer thorough. Dr. Whitmore pulled on his gloves. I'll go Tuesday, midday. Blackwood's at the bank. Tuesday afternoons regular as clockwork. He'll know it was you. Clara said, let him. What's he going to do? Fire his nephew's doctor? That'll look suspicious. Dr. Whitmore's eyes were hard. I'm tired of being careful. Tired of letting him win because we're afraid. Miriam wasn't afraid. And look what it cost her. He mounted his horse. 2 days. I'll get the sample. Ruby, you make sure that reporter's coming. Father Mateo, you keep the registry safe. Clara. He looked down at her. You stay alive until the branding. Don't give Blackwood an excuse. Don't do anything stupid. Define stupid. Anything that ends with you in jail or dead. He kicked his horse into motion. 2 weeks we expose him in front of everyone and then we let the territory decide if it wants justice or just more graves. He rode away. Ruby followed. Clara stood in the rain, staring at Blackwood's house. At the rain barrel visible beside the back door. Green wood, iron bands, lid slightly askew. The powder is in the rain barrel. A 7-year-old boy had risked everything to tell her twice. She turned, walked to her horse, rode home through mud that smelled like spring coming and winter dying. 2 weeks, then everything would break open or everything would end. Tuesday came. Dr. Whitmore rode to Blackwood's house at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Clara watched from the ridge above town, spyglass in hand. He dismounted, knocked. A housekeeper answered. Conversation. Dr. Whitmore showed papers. The housekeeper let him in. 20 minutes. 30. Clara's hand sweated despite the cold. 40 minutes. The door opened. Dr. Whitmore emerged, medical bag in hand. He mounted, rode away at a normal pace. Not hurried, not slow. He didn't look toward the ridge, didn't signal, just rode. Clara waited another hour, then rode down the back way to Dr. Whitmore's office. He was testing the sample when she arrived. Vial of water on his desk, test solution dripping in. His face was pale. The liquid turned bright yellow. Arsenic, he whispered. High concentration, enough to kill a grown man in weeks. A child in days. Clara stared at the vial. He's still using it. Or he kept it. Evidence of his method. Maybe he's too arrogant to think anyone would look. Dr. Whitmore corked the vial. Labeled it. This is proof, Clara. Direct proof. Not circumstantial, not theory. This is poison in his rain barrel. Just like Miriam said. We take this to Harlan and he'll say we contaminated it, that we planted it, that we're desperate. Dr. Whitmore's voice was bitter. We need more than this. We need someone who will testify. They saw him use it. We need the door burst open. Father Mateo stumbled in, face white, hand shaking, blood on his sleeve. Dr. Whitmore was on his feet instantly. What happened? Blackwood knows. Mateo's voice cracked. He knows about the registry, about the certificates. Clara grabbed him. How? I don't know, but he came to the mission an hour ago. Miguel's hands wouldn't stop shaking. Then he showed me a new copy of Elias Brennan's death certificate. Dated correctly. October 3rd, not the 2nd. Perfect. Legal. Dr. Whitmore's face went ashen. He forged new ones. Or he has someone who can. A clerk, a judge, someone with access. Matteo sank into a chair. The evidence is gone. The original certificates. He must have replaced them in the county records, too. Everything we found, everything we documented. It's like it never existed. Clara turned away, slammed her fist into the wall. Plaster cracked. Easy, Dr. Whitmore said. Easy, she spun. He just erased everything. We had proof. We had witnesses. We still have the water sample, Dr. Whitmore said. And we still have Miriam's journal. And we still have a dead woman's diary and a vial that could have come from anywhere. Clara's voice was raw. He wins again. Always. Silence. Father Matteo looked up. Blood had soaked through his sleeve. Dr. Whitmore noticed. You're hurt. It's nothing. I felt it. You fell or someone pushed you. Dr. Whitmore's voice went cold. He rolled up his sleeve. Bruises, dark, fresh, fingerprints clear on his upper arm. He grabbed you, Clara said. Matteo said nothing. Did he threaten you? He didn't have to. The bruises were threat enough. Matteo's voice broke. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, but I can't testify. Can't risk the mission. Can't risk your life. Dr. Whitmore finished quietly. You're scared he'll kill you. Aren't you? The question hung in the air. Dr. Whitmore sat down, looked at the vial on his desk, at the journal Ruby had brought, at Father Matteo's bruised arm. Yes, he said finally. I'm terrified. He's killed at least 15 people, maybe more. He's manipulated the law, the town, the church. He's got money, power, and no conscience. He looked up, met Clara's eyes. And we're 3 people with theories and a water sample. So, we quit, Clara said, flat, dead. I didn't say that. Then what? Dr. Whitmore stood, walked to the window, looked toward Blackwood's house. We stopped playing by his rules. Stop trying to work through sheriffs and marshals and judges he owns. We go to the people directly. The branding, Ruby said from the doorway. They turned. She stood there, mud on her boots, telegram in hand. Reporters coming day before the branding. Wants interviews. Wants to see the evidence. Wants to tour the properties. Ruby's smile was sharp. Blackwood can forge certificates, can threaten priests, can buy sheriffs, but he can't buy every newspaper in Montana Territory. Not yet. One reporter, Father Matteo said, against Blackwood's empire. One reporter who will print the truth, who'll get it into every mining camp, every ranch, every town from here to the border. Ruby walked to the desk, looked at the vial. This gets published, territorial governor will have to act. Federal marshals will have to come. Blackwood's lawyers can't fight the whole country. Clara looked at Dr. Whitmore, at Father Matteo, at Ruby. And if they do nothing, if the story gets buried, then at least we tried, Dr. Whitmore said. And at least people will know. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually the truth gets out. It always does. Question is whether we're brave enough to tell it. Matteo touched his bruised arm, winced. Then slowly, painfully, he nodded. I'll testify at the branding in front of the reporter, in front of the town. His voice steadied. If I'm going to die for this, I'd rather die telling the truth than live hiding it. Dr. Whitmore gripped his shoulder. You're not going to die. Neither is Jamal, Clara said. He grabbed his coat. I'm going to get him. Clara, no. The restraining order expires the day of the branding. That's 8 days. For 8 days, he's alone in that house with him, with his poison, with his lies. He looked at them. I'm not waiting for reporters or marshals or miracles. I'm getting him out tonight. That's kidnapping, Father Matteo said. It's rescue. The law won't see it that way. Then the law is blind. Clara opened the door. Cold air rushed in. You want to help? Be at my ranch at midnight. Bring horses. Bring whatever you need. We're done asking permission to do what's right. He walked out into the dusk. Behind her, the three of them stood in silence. Finally, Ruby stubbed out her cigarette. Well, she said, I always wanted to be an outlaw. Dr. Whitmore grabbed his medical bag. Father Matteo pulled on his coat, and three unlikely conspirators rode into the falling dark to help a broken woman do one unforgivable thing, save a child. Midnight. 4 horses stood in Clara's yard, breath steaming in cold air. Dr. Elias checked his medical supplies. Ruby Lang loaded a rifle. Father Matteo prayed quietly, rosary beads clicking. Clara emerged from the cabin, gun belt strapped on. Last chance to walk away. No one moved. All right, then. She swung into the saddle. Dr. Whitmore, you and Matteo come with me. Ruby, you stay at the road. Anyone comes, you fire twice. We hear that, we scatter. Ruby nodded. And if Blackwood's there, then we're all going to jail. Clara kicked her horse forward. Let's ride. They moved through darkness, hoofbeats muffled by mud. The town slept. No lights except the saloon. Dying embers visible through dirty windows. Blackwood's house loomed on the hill. Dark, silent, only one lamp burning. Ground floor back corner. Clara dismounted 100 yards out. The others followed. They crept forward on foot, mud sucking at their boots. Dr. Whitmore touched her arm, pointed, kitchen window, lamp visible inside, and a shadow moving. Someone was awake. Clara signaled. They split up. Dr. Whitmore and Matteo circled to the back. Clara moved to the side of the house, pressed against cold clapboard. A window. 2nd floor, dark. She picked up a small stone, tossed it. It clinked against glass. Nothing. Another stone. Clink. The curtain moved. A small face appeared. Jamal. His eyes went wide. He pressed his palm to the glass. Clara pointed down. Mouthed, open the back door. He shook his head, pointed to his own chest, then down. Mouthed something she couldn't read. She tried again. Back door. He shook his head harder. Then he pointed behind him toward something in the room. His hand moved, turning an invisible key, locked in. Clara's blood went cold. Jamal's face pressed to the glass. He was crying. Silent tears. His breath fogged the window. Then he stepped back, picked something up, pressed it to the glass. A drawing. 3 figures, 1 tall man, 1 small boy, 1 woman lying down, arms crossed, and at the bottom in shaky letters, help. Footsteps inside. Heavy mail. Jamal's face vanished. The drawing disappeared. Curtain fell. Clara heard a door open. A man's voice. Blackwood. Why are you awake? I heard something. Jamal's voice. Small. Careful. Get back in bed. I'm thirsty. There's water in the pitcher. It tastes funny. Silence. Then drink it anyway. It makes my stomach hurt. You're being difficult. Blackwood's voice hardened. Your mother was difficult. Look where that got her. Clara moved around the house. Found Dr. Whitmore and Father Matteo crouched by the back door. He's locked in, she whispered. 2nd floor. Can't get him out without breaking in. Then we break in, Dr. Whitmore said. And we're arrested for breaking and entering. Lose everything. Father Matteo looked up. The cellar. Old houses like this, they have outside cellar doors. Leads to the kitchen usually. They found it. Wooden doors set into the ground. Rusty hinges. Clara pulled. Locked. She drew her knife, worked the latch, metal scraped, the lock gave. She eased the door open, darkness below, stairs descending. They went down one at a time into cold that smelled like earth and potatoes and mildew. Above them, floorboards creaked. Blackwood was moving around. The cellar stairs led up to a door. Kitchen door. Clara tested it. Unlocked. She pushed it open an inch. Lamplight spilled through. Empty kitchen. Lamp on the table. Half-full glass of water beside it. Blackwood's voice came from somewhere deeper in the house. Go to sleep, Jamal. I won't tell you again. Yes, sir. A door closed. Lock clicked. Footsteps descended stairs. Blackwood appeared in the kitchen. He wore a nightshirt, suspenders loose. He walked to the lamp, reached to extinguish it, stopped, turned, looked directly at the cellar door. Clara froze, hand on her gun. Blackwood walked toward the door slowly, his face unreadable. He reached for the handle. The front door slammed open. Fire. A man's voice. Panicked. Mr. Blackwood, the bank's on fire. Blackwood spun. What? The bank. Someone torched it. Whole front's burning. Blackwood swore, grabbed his coat, ran for the front door. Get the volunteers. Ring the bell. Footsteps pounded. The front door slammed. Voices shouted outside. A bell began ringing. The fire bell. Clara pushed through the cellar door. Dr. Whitmore and Matteo followed. Go, Dr. Whitmore said. I'll get the boy. You two get out. Not leaving without him, Clara said. She took the stairs 3 at a time. Second floor, 3 doors. First empty, second storage, third locked. Jamal, Clara, his voice frightened, hopeful. She tried the door solid. Good lock. Stand back. She kicked once, twice. The frame splintered. Third kick and the door burst open. Jamal stood in the corner, nightshirt too big, bare feet on cold floor. He looked at her, at Dr. Whitmore behind her, at Father Matteo. Then he ran straight to Clara, wrapped his arms around her waist, and held on like he was drowning. I knew you'd come, he whispered. I knew it. She lifted him. He was lighter than he should be. She could feel his ribs. We're leaving. He'll find me. Not where we're going. They ran down the stairs through the kitchen. Dr. Whitmore grabbed the glass of water from the table, sniffed it. Arsenic, he said. Fresh dose. Father Matteo's face went white. He's still poisoning him. Not anymore. Clara carried Jamal through the cellar, up the outside stairs into the night. Ruby was waiting with the horses. She took one look at Jamal and her face crumpled. Get him on my horse, she said. I'll ride double with Matteo. They mounted behind them. The town was waking. Shouts, bells, orange glow against the sky. The fire, Father Matteo started. Wasn't us, Ruby said. She smiled. But I might have mentioned to old Amos where Blackwood's financial records were kept, and Amos might have had sons who owed Blackwood money they couldn't pay, and those sons might have been drinking tonight. Coincidences happen. They rode fast through mud and darkness, away from the burning bank in the waking town, in the house where a little boy had been slowly dying. Dawn broke cold and clear. They reached Clara's ranch as the sun touched the mountains. Inside, Dr. Whitmore examined Jamal, listened to his lungs, looked in his mouth, felt his pulse. Pneumonia is back. Mild, but it's there. Arsenic poisoning, chronic exposure. He needs rest, clean water, medicine. Dr. Whitmore looked at Clara, and he needs safety. Blackwood will come for him. Let him try. Ruby was already at the window. He's coming now. Sheriff with him. For deputies. Clara looked down at Jamal. He sat wrapped in a blanket, holding a cup of clean water. His eyes were clearer than she'd seen them. Brighter. What happens now? He asked. Now we tell the truth, she said. Hoofbeats outside, doors slamming, boots on the porch. Thornwood, come out. You're under arrest. Clara looked at Dr. Whitmore. At Ruby, at Father Mateo, at the little boy who trusted her to come. Ready? She asked. Dr. Whitmore pulled out the water sample. Father Mateo touched the church registry he'd brought. Ruby loaded her rifle. Ready, they said. Clara opened the door. Blackwood stood behind Sheriff Harlan, face twisted with rage. You kidnapped my nephew. I rescued him. That's not your decision to make. Someone had to. Clara stepped onto the porch. Behind her, Jamal appeared in the doorway. Small, fragile, alive. The crowd that had gathered went silent. Blackwood pointed at him. See, he's fine, healthy. This woman is delusional. I have arsenic poisoning, Jamal said. His voice was small, but in the morning quiet, it carried. My uncle puts powder in the water. He did it to Mama. He did it to me. He looked at Blackwood. And when Mama found out, he killed her. Gasps, murmurs. The crowd shifted. That's a lie. Blackwood said. The child is confused. I saw you. Jamal said. I saw you put it in the rain barrel, and I heard you tell Mama that if she told anyone, I'd disappear, too. The crowd noise grew, angry, questioning. Father Mateo stepped forward, held up the registry. I have church records, death certificate signed by Silas Blackwood before people died, original dates before he forged new ones. Dr. Whitmore raised the vial. I have water from his rain barrel, tested positive for arsenic, concentration high enough to kill. Ruby stepped beside them. And I have coded telegrams from Miriam Kellerman documenting everything sent before she disappeared. Sheriff Harlan looked at Blackwood, at the evidence, at the crowd. Silas Blackwood, he said slowly. You're under arrest for you have no authority. Blackwood's voice cracked. These people are liars, conspirators. This is A.A. Watt. Old Amos pushed through the crowd, his sons behind him. My son died on your land, his wife, his kids. You bought their farm for nothing. More voices, more families, people Clara hadn't known were listening, hadn't known were keeping track. My husband, my brother, my son. The names piled up like stones. Each one a death. Each one a property. Each one leading back to Blackwood. The banker's face went white, then red, then he turned and ran. Made it 10 feet before old Amos's sons caught him, dragged him back. Sheriff Harlan clicked handcuffs on. For the record, I'm arresting you on suspicion of murder, multiple counts, and attempted murder of a child. He looked at Clara. You're not off the hook either. Kidnapping charges. Emergency rescue. Dr. Whitmore interrupted. I'm his physician. I authorized the removal due to immediate medical danger. Harlan's mouth twitched almost a smile. We'll sort it out, but for now, he looked at Jamal. The boy stays here under medical supervision until the territorial judge arrives. He hauled Blackwood toward his horse. The banker was screaming now. Threats, bribes, promises of ruin. No one listened. The crowd began to disperse slowly, quietly. Some touched Clara's shoulder as they passed. Others nodded. Old Amos gripped her hand. Branding's this weekend, Amos said. We'll be there. Might not have a ranch by then. You'll have a ranch and you'll have neighbors, real ones. Amos looked at Jamal. And you'll have family. He walked away. Clara turned. Jamal stood in the doorway wrapped in the blanket. Behind him, Dr. Whitmore and Ruby and Father Mateo. Is it over? Jamal asked. Not yet, Clara said. But we're getting there. He smiled, small, tired, real. And for the first time in 3 years, Clara felt something she'd thought was dead. Hope. The territorial judge arrived 3 days later. Silver hair, hard eyes, reputation for fairness that made lawyers nervous and criminals desperate. He held the hearing in the church, only building big enough for the crowd. Clara sat in the front row, Jamal beside her, Dr. Whitmore on her other side. Behind them, the pews filled with families who'd lost land, lost loved ones, lost years to grief they'd thought was just bad luck. Blackwood sat in chains. His lawyers from Helena flanked him. Expensive suits and leather cases. They looked confident. Blackwood looked broken. The judge heard testimony for 6 hours. Dr. Whitmore presented the water samples, the test results, medical records showing Jamal's arsenic levels. Father Mateo presented the church registry, the original death certificates with impossible dates. His hand shook, but his voice held steady. Ruby presented Miriam's telegrams, the coded warnings, the final message cut short. And then the judge called Jamal. He walked to the front so small the chair swallowed him. The judge leaned down, spoke gently. You understand? You have to tell the truth. Yes, sir. Even if it's scary. Yes, sir. All right, then. Tell me what happened. Jamal took a breath. My uncle put powder in the rain barrel. White powder. He thought I didn't see, but I did. I was up in the tree and I watched him pour it in. When was this? Last winter before Christmas. Did your mother know? She found out. She tested the water. Then she yelled at Uncle Silas. They fought. He said she was crazy. Said no one would believe her. Jamal's voice dropped. Then she disappeared. Do you know where she went? No, but Uncle Silas said if I told anyone, I'd disappear, too. He looked up. So, I didn't tell until Miss Clara found me until I knew someone would listen. The judge's face showed nothing. That's very brave. Thank you. Blackwood's lawyer stood. Permission to cross-examine? Denied. He's 7 years old and you're a grown man. Sit down. The lawyer Saturday. The judge reviewed the evidence, flipped through pages, studied water samples, read telegrams. Finally, he looked up. Silas Blackwood, the evidence against you is substantial. Damning, and it reveals a pattern of predatory behavior that shocks the conscience. He set down the papers. You systematically poisoned families, waited for them to die, then bought their properties for pennies. You forged legal documents. You murdered your own sister when she discovered your crimes, and you attempted to murder her child to hide your guilt. Blackwood's lawyer started to object. The judge silenced him with a look. You'll stand trial for 15 counts of murder, 1 count of attempted murder, multiple counts of fraud and forgery. The territorial prosecutor will handle it from here. He turned to Sheriff Harlan. Remand him to custody. Helena jail. I don't trust him in a local cell. Harlan nodded. Started to lead Blackwood away. The banker turned, looked at Clara. His eyes were empty now. No rage, no fight, just hollow recognition. You took everything, he said. You took it from yourself, Clara replied. They dragged him out. The crowd watched in silence. The judge cleared his throat. Now the matter of the child's custody. Clara's chest tightened. Miss Thornwood, you kidnapped a minor from her legal guardian's home. I rescued him. I'm not finished. The judge's voice was stern. However, given the circumstances, immediate danger to the child's life, evidence of ongoing poisoning, and the legal guardian's subsequent arrest for murder, I'm ruling the kidnapping was justified under emergency doctrine. Clara exhaled. That said, the child needs a permanent guardian. The state can provide. No. Jamal's voice, small but firm, he stood. I want to stay with Clara. The judge looked at him. You understand? She's not your family, not your blood. She came back for me. That's family. Silence. The judge's expression softened. Ms. Thornwood, are you prepared to take permanent custody to provide for this child? To raise him as your own? Clara looked down at Jamal, at his brown eyes and tangled hair, and the trust he'd placed in a woman who'd almost given up on everything. Yes, sir. Then by authority of the territorial court, I grant you emergency guardianship. Permanent adoption can be finalized once the criminal trial concludes. The judge's gavel fell. Court adjourned. The crowd erupted, not in cheers, in something quieter. Relief. Release. The sound of people remembering how to breathe. 2 weeks later, the spring thaw came hard. Ice broke on the creek. Mud turned to soft earth. Wild flowers pushed through dead grass. The branding happened as scheduled. 40 neighbors came. They worked the cattle, heated the irons, marked the calves with Thornwood's tea, and when they finished, they stayed, shared food, told stories, drank coffee in the yard while children played and the sun dropped low. Old Amos pulled Clara aside. Bank sold Blackwood's properties at auction. County kept some for back taxes, but your foreclosure note voided. Ruled fraudulent. Ranch is yours. Free and clear. Clara nodded. Couldn't speak. You did good, Amos said. Your father would be proud. He walked away before Clara could thank him. Jamal ran up, mud on his shirt, laughter in his voice. Can I help with the next one? Can I hold the iron? You're too small. I'll grow. She looked at him, at the color returning to his cheeks, at the light returning to his eyes. Yeah, she said. You will. That night, after everyone left, they sat on the porch. Coffee for her, milk for him, stars beginning to show. Does it still hurt? He asked. What? When you breathe. She looked at him. Remember the first time he'd said those words. Remember the cold and the fear and the certainty that she couldn't save anyone. No, she said. Not anymore. He leaned against her, small and warm and alive. Me neither. They sat in the growing dark. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote called. Cattle answered. The creek rushed over stones, carrying winter's memory downstream. Inside the cabin, Miriam's journal sat on the shelf. Evidence logged. Justice served. But also something more. A record of a mother's love. A testament that someone had cared enough to write it all down. Tomorrow they'd ride to the cemetery, plant flowers on Miriam's grave, found by spring runoff, buried proper. Now they'd tell her about the trial, about Blackwood in chains, about her son safe and healing. But tonight they just sat, a broken woman and a rescued child. Learning what family meant when it wasn't about blood. Learning what home meant when it was chosen. And in the distance, the mountain stood dark against the stars. Silent witnesses to the truth that sometimes when winter finally breaks, spring comes hard and fast and full of second chances. Summer came slow that year, the kind that sneaks up after a hard winter where every warm day feels stolen from the cold. Clara worked the ranch. Jamal learned to ride, to mend fence, to read the sky for weather. Dr. Whitmore visited twice a week, checking lungs that grew stronger, cheeks that filled out, eyes that stopped looking over their shoulders. The reporter from Butte published his story. It ran in 14 newspapers across 3 territories. Federal marshals came, more evidence surfaced, more victims identified. The trial was set for autumn in Helena. Blackwood would hang. Everyone knew it. The lawyers knew it. Even Blackwood knew it. But that was Autumn's business. Summer belonged to the living. One evening, Clara sat on the porch, watching fireflies rise from the grass. Jamal sat beside her, wrapped in Marcus's old quilt, drawing in a sketchbook Ruby had given him. He held it up. Done. 3 figures, a tall woman, a small boy, and a woman with dark hair floating above them like a star. Below, a house, a barn, cattle, and written across the bottom in careful letters, the Thornwood family. Clara's throat tightened. You like it? Jamal asked. I love it. He set it aside, leaned his head against her arm. Do you think Mama knows that I'm okay? I think she does. How? Because wherever people go when they're done fighting, I reckon they get to see the endings. Get to know their battles mattered. She looked down at him. Your Mama saved you with that journal, with her courage. She's the reason you're here. Jamal was quiet for a long time. Then I'm glad you found me. Me, too, little one. The fireflies drifted higher. The creek sang its endless song. And somewhere in the dark, the mountains kept their watch. Inside the cabin, the branding iron hung on the wall. Marcus's picture sat on the mantel beside Miriam's. 2 people who'd never met, but who'd both known what it meant to love someone enough to leave them protected. Clara had lost a husband, a daughter, a future she'd thought was fixed and certain. But she'd found something else, something harder and true, unearned through winter's long dying. A family built on choice, on showing up, on refusing to walk away when walking away was easier. Jamal's breathing slowed, deepened. He'd fallen asleep against her, small and warm and trusting. She didn't move, didn't want to break the moment. Above them, stars filled the sky like promises. And for the first time since Marcus died, Clara Thornwood sat in the quiet of her porch and felt something she'd thought was gone forever. Peace. Not the kind that comes from forgetting, the kind that comes from surviving. From fighting through the cold and finding spring on the other side, from learning that sometimes when everything breaks, what you build from the pieces is stronger than what you lost. The night deepened, the fireflies faded, and a rancher and a little boy sat together in the dark, breathing easy,